Hey guys, it is Chels from Blueberry Funded, and today we are going to be doing another market breakdown for this week. Okay, so right now, again, as always, I'm going to be taking a look at my economic calendar, making sure I know and I'm aware of what days are potentially best to trade, and just being cautious of any high red folder impact news. So obviously today, Monday, there was high impact news for PMI as well. Going into Tuesday tomorrow, there looks like there is no red folder news. So tomorrow looks good to trade during New York. Wednesday, we do have ADP employment change as well as PMI. Going into Thursday looks good. And then, of course, we do have NFP on Friday. So just making sure that we are staying cautious, especially during NFP week. Definitely want to be cautious in the market. So what I have pulled up here, guys, is GBPUSD. So looking at GBPUSD, it looks like we continue to trend lower on the higher time frame. So we had definitely dipped past 1.31430 area. And it looks like GU is starting to potentially bottom out here. Again, this is the 7 hour. I'm going to drop down to the 4, so it looks a little bit clearer. But I will say, as of right now, this would be the 4 hour low that I'm taking a look at, just to see if we could hold, if this low can hold at where it's currently at, 1.31,000 area. If we can hold the low here, it does look promising for potential buys, at least back up into 1.32530 area. So as long as price keeps pushing past and we do get that break above 1.31600 area, and again, we do see a retest back into the lows here when we did initially have this bottom. So I'm potentially looking for longs here at this point, especially on the 4 hour with GU, right? And again, I like to use the line chart a lot for a lot of my confirmations. And so this is what I'm looking at. There was a nice reaction already at this low. So again, just wanting to see if these internal highs at 1.31600 ends up breaking, and we can get that break above, then I do see price potentially pushing up until this area. So that is what I'm looking at on GBP/USD. Going into US 30 here. US 30 looks like we are still going to be pushing bearish. I did mark this level sometime last week around 46,600 to 46,500 area. That we could potentially take out lows here. So again, if we get this huge volume push, especially going into NFP, depending on how NFP goes, typically I would like to see a push down back into this range, just because we've had this big push to the upside here from the last couple weeks. And so I would love to see a correction back into that specific area. Also looking here on the daily, right, we do see exhaustion around current areas, which is 47,800 to around 48,000. So yeah, this is just kind of what I'm looking at. I am looking at sells more to the downside for US 30, potentially coming back into here, so we can get that retest of this previous area that had broken from the last 2 weeks. Going into gold, gold looks like we did have that correction, right? We did have that correction from the ending of last week. I do still believe that we are still bullish on gold, obviously, especially on the daily time frame here. We haven't really broken major lows, right? We kind of dipped past this low right here, but again, we're still having that nice reaction around 3,900 area. So again, if lows can hold here, then I could see a potential upside again on gold, and we could potentially come up into this area around 4,200 to 4,300 areas and potentially get a retest, and that would then show if we want to continue lower or are we going to continue to push and break highs, right? So as of right now, this looks like it has potentially bottomed out within this range. And so just waiting for price to come back up to retest. But again, markets are super unpredictable, especially when it comes to red folder news. So just depending on how NFP plays out this week, we could potentially fall lower if it presented itself. So just being cautious when it comes to that. This year has just been really crazy with, all the news and everything. So I think it's just really important to stay flexible, stay cautious to what we're seeing in the markets, and really just trade what you see, right? Doesn't really matter how you feel about certain things. You want to just trade what you see at the end of the day. So That is currently what I am seeing on these pairs. It is still the beginning of the week, and so I'm just kind of waiting for the market to settle, guys. I don't really like to jump in to market open unless I see something very solid that I was eyeing from the previous week. But for the most part, I like to just wait and see what's going to happen towards midweek, especially if I know that there is high impact news. And I do believe pairs like metals and indices could be moving potentially a bit slower going into NFP. That's typically how it is. Usually when there's a big news events toward the ending of the week, pairs move a little bit slower. So we might get some sideways movement, some consolidation before those news events even happen. But that is what I'm looking at for this week, guys. So definitely stay cautious, and I hope you all have a great week in the markets. I'll talk to you guys and see you guys next week.